And greetings, everybody. Meteorologist and weather prognosticator Chad Merrill. I'll have a look at the weather forecast over the next 7 days. But first of all, we want to get you up to speed on some of the showers and storms moving across the mid-Atlantic states. And what we have is showers that are moving into the I-95 corridor with high atmospheric moisture content. Some of these could produce some localized flash flooding. We also have some very heavy rain that is moving across western Maryland at this time. And these showers continue to stream north from an area of low pressure that is centered just to the west of Pittsburgh. And these bright reds and yellows indicate a line of heavy thunderstorms with gusty winds and the potential for some isolated tornadoes that will move into the Pittsburgh area close to 4 o'clock and then continue to move northward as we go throughout the late afternoon. Behind this particular storm system, what we have is a northwest flow and some light rain, but more in the way of cooler temperatures and more typical fall-like air. This line of storms moving into the Pittsburgh area will continue to move north. The threat tomorrow shifts east as the storm system moves over the mountains into eastern parts of Pennsylvania. So that's where the threat for gusty winds will exist tomorrow, right along the I-95 corridor in the eastern parts of the mid-Atlantic. So let me go back to my screen here and stop sharing this. And I want to go through the forecast here. So I'll share my other screen that I've got here. All right. So here's our Almanack page, updated on a weekly basis. More recently, I provided some information to the Cumberland Times News on the potential for heavy rain in the mid-Atlantic. So we highlighted that article. And our September forecast. How are we doing? Not too bad. Been a couple of days off here and there with the weather pattern, but we did predict 19th through the 21st of September rain would fall across the mid-Atlantic. It's more like the 21st with the 23rd. And notice we have a stretch of fair weather the 22nd through the 30th. And as you will see here, there is the potential for some quiet weather and more fall-like conditions that will develop. There was a sonic boom in northern parts of West Virginia on Friday, and even the geostationary lightning mapper picked up some reflectivity. It was from a meteor that came into the atmosphere and produced a sonic boom noise and some sparks that were caught on this particular image. It was too cloudy to see the sparks, but it did produce a boom noise. It's very rare for a meteor to enter the Earth's atmosphere. Speaking of the Earth's atmosphere, here's an upper level low that's producing the showers and storms out ahead of it across the mid-Atlantic today. This will pivot eastward. Eastern parts of the mid-Atlantic will see the heaviest rain and potential for flash flooding, spotty in nature, tomorrow on Thursday, the 23rd. And then that moves up into New England on Friday. We have a bona fide high pressure ridge behind it that will provide, as it is providing across the west, clear skies. So we have a tranquil weather pattern once we get through this particular storm system late tonight, all the way through early Friday in the northeast, and then high pressure builds in. The amount of moisture with the storm is pretty impressive, 1.9 inches. That's the precipitable water value. And when you compare that to climatology, it's on the high end of things, the top 10 percentile. So these showers and storms will produce some very heavy rain over a short period of time. Now, as we take a look further, as we get into the cooler weather, we want to talk a little bit about the climatology of the first freeze of the season. Typically happens in the first half of October in the interior mid-Atlantic, and then the early part of November once you head towards the coast. So one element meteorologists use for forecasting the potential for frost is the dew point trends. Dew points are going to fall off from the very high values that they are on this Wednesday down into the 40s, especially across the interior mid-Atlantic going forward through the weekend. But we typically look for dew points to fall close to about 35 degrees for frost formation. So we're not there just yet. There is high fire danger that continues in the western US because of the length of days without rainfall and the continuation of fires that continue to burn. We have 21 in Idaho, 12 in Montana, 9 in California, 7 in Oregon and Washington. There is active fires in California that will be carried east through the Great Basin and the Rockies going forward for the next couple of days. So the smoke plume will be confined to the Great Basin into the Central Plains, not seeing any risk in the east for any smoke in the atmosphere. Turning our attention to the tropics now, We have a couple of storms out there right now, but nothing that is imminent for the East Coast, thanks to this trough of low pressure bringing the showers and storms Wednesday and Thursday. That will help kick these storms a little bit further east out to sea. We do expect radiation fog over the next couple of nights. And what you typically get in a pattern like this is temperatures at night fall down to the dew point, you have clear skies, and you have calm winds. So that typically means, and I'll share my screen here, is you have a pattern that develops just like this, where you have some areas like this ball field near this school, which contains fog. This is early in the morning, you have clear skies, temperature near the dew point, some dew on the grass. So when you're driving through some of these deep valleys, do expect some fog between about 4 and 9 a.m. after we get rid of this particular storm system. Now what I'll do is I'll turn my attention back to my screen that I was previously sharing, and we will look at some other features. One feature is the current drought situation. We still have drought across the upper parts of New England, the interior parts, which have not been hit with much rain. It's been very wet and soggy along the I-95 corridor, but not across upstate New York, northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and interior Maine. But we do have good news to report. Across the mid-Atlantic, we had a moderate drought a couple of weeks ago in early August. In the Panhandle, West Virginia, and Western Maryland, that has diminished with the recent onslaught of heavy rain. One thing we are following for the winter season is stratospheric winds. That is the layer of the atmosphere above where weather occurs. And the stronger the winds, the stronger the polar vortex. The stronger the polar vortex, the better chance the cold air stays confined to the poles, the North Pole and the Arctic Circle. When these winds weaken considerably, and there's definitely a trend for weakening winds as we go through late October, that helps drive undulations in the jet stream and drive cold air further south. So we are watching for a potential for a stratospheric warming event into the early part of the winter season. Our winter outlook is already posted on our YouTube page. Now I want to share some information about what's going on in the night sky as well. So turn my attention here and I will share the screen. Here is the 500 millibar forecast. This is mid-level heights. When they drop below the climatology, you typically get some cooler weather. That's exactly what we're going to see behind the storm system. It's a stretch of nice weather through the weekend. A rebound in heights towards the end of September that will bring increasing temperatures. And then we have another little dip right around the first part of October, but there is a trend for above average heights in the first 7 days of October that would spell above average temperatures. The Madden-Julian oscillation helps to determine the potential for activity in the tropics, the Atlantic tropics. And there is a strong signal for phase 4, 5, and 6 in this 8-phase rotation. So let's take a look a little bit on the climatology of those phases. The number of named storms typically ranges from 1 to 1.5 in these 3 phases. The active Atlantic phases, though, as you can see, phase 1 and 2 and 8. So we are entering a little bit of a lull here in terms of the number of named storms that we expect to develop for the first at least 7 or 8 days in October. Phase 1 and 2 favors multiple storms with tracks that take storms into the Gulf of Mexico, potentially making landfall along the Central Gulf, and a couple of storms that come dangerously close to the US. In phase 6 and 7, that's the direction we are heading now, out of an active phase towards a more inactive phase of the Madden-Julian oscillation. Very few storms, and the tracks of these storms tend to favor northward progression towards the Western Atlantic, steering themselves away from the East Coast. So we don't expect over the next 7 days for there to be any tropical activity along the East Coast. Here's a look at the night sky for the next couple of days. The autumnal equinox occurred today, Wednesday the 22nd. That means 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of night. And then going forward, will have more hours of darkness than daylight as we come closer to the winter solstice. The moon and Uranus will be visible starting Friday evening and early on Saturday. Best chance to see it will be between 9:33 p.m. Friday and 3:42 a.m. on Saturday. Best chance to see it, of course, if you're away from city lights and also with binoculars and not a telescope, because of how separated the moon and Uranus will be. The sextantid meteor shower will peak between 4:51 a.m. and 6:34 a.m. on Monday. And then after that, we'd see the sunrise before 8 o'clock, so you won't be able to see any meteors. Now, this isn't the most stunning meteor shower of the year by any means. At most, you might see one meteor per hour, and the best chance to see it will be looking at a dark patch in the sky before the sun comes up. Bishops has a couple of running events this weekend, and the weather's going to be beautiful. Rise and Grind National Coffee Day races, Pratt Park in Fredericksburg, mostly sunny, comfortable humidity, temperatures in the 50s in the morning, 75 to 80 in the afternoon. On the 26th, the Autumn Georgetown races, mostly sunny, pleasant for that. The runners will not have to worry about mugginess. Temperatures in the 50s in the morning, mid-70s in the afternoon. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this week's weather podcast and a look at the night sky. We'll see you next week.